What's going on, y'all? So today I'm gonna be talking about this incident that came out of Kissimmee, Florida, involving a Checkers employee and a customer. The Checkers employee's name is Elijah Mackey, and the customer name is Wesley Robinson. Elijah's 23, Wesley is 40. So basically what happened was there was an altercation at the Checkers where Elijah worked at. He was working the drive-through, doing business as usual, and he was dealing with an order. And then he came across this individual by the name of Wesley Robinson. And Wesley Robinson, he had an issue with this order. The order was correct, but it was a particular condiment that he wanted, and that condiment was mayo. Either he didn't get enough mayo or he didn't get any mayo packets at all. And then an argument ensues between the two of these individuals. And then it prompts Elijah to come from inside of the Checkers where he was at and come outside. So apparently it must have got really, really intense to the point where he had to actually come outside and then confront him. And then they start arguing even more right there at the spot. And then something that that Wesley said to Elijah prompted Elijah to pull out his power tool and pop Wesley right there in front of the Checkers, taking his life, which also led Elijah to fleeing on foot and then hiding somewhere, in which of course he was found by the cops later on, and then they apprehended him. Now that's just the overall summary of it, but now I'm gonna go ahead and get into the article, and it's gonna fill in the extra gaps. A Checkers employee in Florida was arrested after being accused of shooting and killing a customer who, quote, was possibly asking for mayonnaise packets, according to local authorities and court documents. The Osceola County Sheriff's Office shared on May 22nd that Elijah Travis Mackey was charged with premeditated murder with a firearm in connection with the killing of Wesley Robertson at a Checkers location in Kissimmee. Now, I'm trying to figure out, I'm confused right there that they're charging him with murder in the first degree, because they're going to have to really prove that he planned to take out this guy. To my knowledge, they never knew each other. He probably had the power tool there with him just for protection. He probably has always had it with him every other day that he's worked there, but that was the day that he decided to use it. But I think they overcharged him with that. It kind of reminds me of what they did with Carmelo Anthony and the Austin Metcalf situation, and how I believe they overcharged him with that, and I don't think those charges are actually going to stick. He's most likely going to get charged with something, but I don't see them getting him on murder in the first degree, because they would have to prove without the shadow of a doubt that he intended to take out Wesley Robertson that day at that time, and they have no proof of that. So at best, they most likely, or they should have him in the second degree part, because there was no intent there, but someone did lose their life. Mackey, who was working at the Checkers location during the incident around 10:10 p.m., engaged in a verbal dispute with Robinson regarding his food order, according to the sheriff's office. The confrontation escalated, prompting Mackey to shoot Robinson, according to the agency. Robinson was taken to a local medical center where he succumbed to his injuries, the sheriff's office said. Deputies arrested Mackey and booked him into the Osceola County Jail on May 22nd. It is unclear if Mackey has a bail or defense attorney. USA Today contacted Checkers on May 27th but did not receive an immediate response. According to an arrest warrant obtained by USA Today, a witness told detectives that after Robinson, who was on foot in the Checkers drive-through line, got his food from the right window, he began complaining about his order and demanded to speak to the manager several times. While at the window, Mack came around from the right side of the building and began arguing with Robinson, the arrest warrant says. During the argument, Robinson called Mackey several slurs before the employee reached into the right side of the front of his waistband and pulled out a small handgun. So now we're getting a little bit of more context, because I wanted to know what were they arguing about. Like, what they said it was over the fact that he didn't have any, or didn't have enough mayonnaise packets, and apparently they weren't trying to give him any more, because usually they only give you so much, and then if you ask for more, they'll give you more. But it looks to me, just by this, based on what the witness is saying, they're saying that Robinson, Wesley Robinson, the one who was shot, He came on foot to the window and demanded to speak to the manager. So if you know how Checkers is set up, there is nowhere you can sit down inside of a Checkers. You either go inside and you order and you just stand there and wait for your order, or you just go to the drive-thru. Typically, a lot of people go to the drive-thru because the inside of a Checkers is really, really small. So the fact that he went to the window, he had to have went to that window and gotten in someone's face. And then when they say to the window, I'm assuming they say in the drive-thru line, which why would they talk to you in the drive-thru line if you're not in a car? That's usually how that works. If he had an issue, he should have came inside, which he didn't, which prompted Elijah to go outside to him about it. So I wish there was like surveillance footage or something, because he must have said something serious, or the way his attitude was when he came up there, instead of handling it in a calm tone. And then they saying that allegedly he called Elijah several slurs, and we can pretty much guess what those slurs was. And then that's what prompted Elijah to do what he did, because it sounds to me like up until that point, all it was just words back and forth that were exchanged between the two of them. But when he said those slurs, that's what made him pull out the power tool and pop him right there in the parking lot, or right there in front of the Checkers. That's based on what using that based off what the witness said. It says no other words were exchanged before Mackey shot Robertson in the chest, the witness said, according to the arrest warrant. When the injured Robertson fell headfirst into the building, Mackey ran toward a nearby slingshot ride, the court document states. Another witness told detectives a similar story, but the person noted that Robertson was possibly asking the Checkers workers for mayonnaise packets at the time of the incident, the arrest warrant states. The witness also, let me just say this. That's good for Elijah that this other witness told a similar story, because then that's why they do it. They want to make sure that the stories are the same and no one's telling one story one way or another story another way, or just telling two different stories. So they're basically saying these two witnesses that they've interviewed are telling the same story. They just said that the only difference between the one and the other was that they were possibly asking the workers for mayo at the time of the incident. But everything else is pretty much the same. Him getting out of the car, going to the window, yelling at them, demanding to speak to the manager, Elijah coming outside, them going back and forth, him saying the slurs, and then Elijah shooting him. So those are pretty much all the same. It says the witness also told detectives that after fleeing, Mackey returned to the business moments later to retrieve his backpack, only to leave on foot once again. Responding deputies eventually found Mackey hiding under the stairwell of a motel. When deputies handcuffed him, he spontaneously said, "I have a gun on me," the arrest warrant says. Once the gun on Mackey was recovered, the court document states that deputies heard Mackey saying several times, "Is dude okay?" So now this is kind of reminding me of going back to Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf, because remember, he was getting ready to leave too, but he came back and asked more so Hunter Metcalf, was he okay? Checking to see if he was good. So even though he didn't come back except to get his backpack, when he was about to get arrested, he was asking about the well-being of the person that he shot, which means which says to me he didn't mean to do it. It's just like one of those things that in the heat of the moment, that's what he felt he had to do. That's why I said I wish there was some surveillance footage there to show what also happened. I mean, it's good we have the witness statements from it, but I wish we had a visual of what happened. Hopefully, should this go to trial, which it most likely will, that this will actually occur. Video from the Checkers show. Well, look at that. Asking you shall receive. Mackey climbing out of a drive-through window and walking to the front of the business where Robertson was. Moments later, the video shows the customer falling to the ground, according to the arrest warrant. I feel like there's some holes there, but I'm sure that'll come out eventually. In a statement obtained by People in WESH, Checkers said, "We are shocked and saddened by the incident that occurred last night at our restaurant in Kissimmee, Florida. The actions of this one employee do not reflect the values of the thousands of our hardworking employees across the country." And they had to say that because they already know what's going to happen. And then on top of that, look at the optics. Elijah is black and Wesley is white. So you already know once the usual suspects get a hold of this, what they're about to do. As a matter of fact, I know that they're doing it because when I originally saw this article on the New York Post, I looked and saw it had 305 comments, and sure enough, within the first 5 comments, they kept bringing up Carmelo Anthony. They're going to say, oh, he's going to get a Give Send Go. People are going to donate to him. He's going to get a mansion and all this, that, and the third. So I already know exactly what they're about to do with this one if they find out about it. It says, we are working closely with the police in their investigation, and we are sending our thoughts and prayers to the guest family. The Checkers location in Kissimmee, Florida, reopened for business on May 23rd. So that's the entire article right there. Of course, there's going to be more updates going to come out about this particular story. I'm sure there's definitely more information there that needs to be told with this, but with what we know so far, what we know is that there was allegedly an issue with an order because allegedly there was no or not enough mayo packets inside of the bag. The customer went and confronted the worker about it, or demanded to speak to a manager, and it sounds to me like he could have been belligerent himself, because what would prompt Elijah to climb through the drive-through window to deal with him? Like, you have to be very upset to do that, because he could have easily just left and walked out of the building and then came and confronted him. He hopped out of the drive-through window, because I think that's where he came to. And then, according to a witness, they had a heated exchange back and forth. Words were exchanged. Apparently some of those words were slurs, and that's what prompted Elisha to pull out the power tool and pop him right there. He left, came back to get his backpack. They found him hiding somewhere. They got him. They arrested him. He asked, was he okay? And now he's charged with premeditated murder in the first degree, which I really don't think that charge is going to stick. I mean, if they try to make that stick, they're heavily overcharging him, because there's no proof that he intended or to do that particular day, or wake up that day and said, I'm going to do this. There's no way he planned to do that. It's just something that happened in the heat of the moment. Second degree, I can understand, but first, I don't see it happening. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.